Alright, hello and welcome to this spur of the moment video. It is a lovely day here in Wales. Beautiful blue skies and golden sunshine all along the way. No, there really is actually beautiful blue skies and golden sunshine all along the way. It has been hot as a motherfucker today. So I'm going to try and get through this as quick as I can before I can turn the fan back on, but then again it is me, and quick as I can could be anywhere between 10 and 180 minutes, I mean, depending on the subject. But I want to talk about the fact that I went to the cinema today for the first time in a very long time. So it is the 13th of June, and it was 458 days since I last went to the cinema. Both times were with Connie as well. So where do I begin? I mean, I'm going to talk about the film, which is A Quiet Place Part 2. I'll do that in the second half of the video, and I'll give you a spoiler warning, because I want to talk about what I thought of the film and give a brief review of it and my thoughts and opinions and feelings and analyses and theories and dissections. I'm just going to talk about things I liked about the film. It's going to be pretty basic. But the cinema. I know it's been this kind of sacred thing for a lot of people, and going back to the cinema is a big deal, and it's like this holy, near holy, sacred experience, and I understand that. I get that. I'm with you. We sat down in the cinema, and it was, you know, I was wondering how it was going to feel again after almost a year, well, a year and a quarter, I would say, not quite a year and a half. Last March, I went to see Onward. I think I already mentioned. I don't know if I mentioned the film was Onward, but it was Onward, and you know, I didn't go back to the cinema when everything reopened in the summer last year in 2020. It was just a matter of waiting for the right moments, because they reopened stuff, I think, in like July of last year, and I just didn't feel like I was ready. I went into the city to see, okay, how are people acting now that we're kind of out of lockdown, and you know, there's just people everywhere, no masks anywhere. I go into a shop and people are practically dry humping me from behind just to try and... Don't you just fucking hate that? When you're queuing up for a shop and someone just stands right so close behind you, they're practically breathing on you. Like, you can feel their breath on you, and you just think, what are you doing? You're not moving the queue any further by standing closer to me. Back the fuck off. And I mean that without the pandemic, without the social distancing. I don't get why people do that. It's fucking stupid, and I feel uncomfortable with it. Anyway, so, you know, this whole pandemic thing has kicked off. I go into the city for the first time since it all kicked off. I self-isolated for 3 months, and I just thought, no, people don't give a fuck. And what happened? We had a second wave. I know it's a bit more complicated than that, but I could see that people didn't really take it too seriously, and I've seen that since the beginning of the pandemic, and I still see it today. So I thought, okay, I'm not going to go into a cinema. I don't want to go into a building with other people. Just not going to happen. So decided not to do that, even though the Cineworld were tempting me with, like, we're showing Blade Runner, we're showing Fellowship of the Ring, we're showing Karate Kid. I'm like, you fucking bastards, I want to see those films. Now, of course, they're open again, they're not showing any of those classic films, but, you know, there's more films to show now, I guess. Well, I don't know. Well, yeah, because they kind of pulled everything, didn't they, when the pandemic had hit, and all the studios like, oh, yoink, you know, and so what do we show? Let's show some classics. But now, the push is that the flow is moving in a much more forward moving momentum. It's moving forward. Films are coming out. I'll leave that in for free, as I always do. So, well, I say as I always do. There's shit I always cut out of these videos. Anyway, so the cinema. Decided not to go back, but now it's been, you know, well over a year, and I feel a lot more comfortable. I mean, with my asthma, I don't want to risk things too much, so I've been very careful. But I'm also around people every day in work. And because I'm very careful, I think nothing's happened. You know, I haven't got it. If I did and I didn't know it, then that's kind of problematic, and I hope I didn't pass it to anyone. But given my severe asthma, I would assume if I got it, I would fucking know that I had it. So, you know, touch wood. I've been alright with the precautions I've taken. And so I felt like, okay, I could probably try going back to the cinema. And it was really Connie that kind of dragged me along to this, because she really wanted to see A Quiet Place Part 2. She was so excited for that film when it was announced, was gutted that it was just on the cusp of the pandemic, and then it got delayed and all this. And she really wanted to go and see it. So we went to see it today. And yeah, it was one of those weird things where it was like, okay, is this the right thing to do, going back to the cinema? And the bus didn't turn up for like 35 minutes. We're going to miss our showing because our time window was very short. And it's like, it's a sign, it's a sign. But, you know, the bus eventually turned up and we got there like 5 minutes late. Connie's unlimited card didn't work because she's been upgraded to a black one, but they haven't sent her that yet, so she can't use it. We figured it out, went inside, and I wasn't sure whether, like, okay, are there going to be ads and trailers, you know, with the pandemic, with coronavirus? Are they going to be like, okay, you know, no ads and trailers, just to keep the time that people are inside the building down to a minimum? But no, it's like, again, I think it's about 28 minutes I counted of ads and trailers. Don't you just hate that they do ads, and then it's like, okay, now it's time for the trailers. You're like, oh, okay, I can enjoy some of the new trailers. And then the trailers end, it's like, okay, here comes the film. Nope, there's more ads, more ads. Just give us the trailers last. Like, I don't care about the order, well, I do care about the order. You shouldn't care about the order, because by that point in time, well, maybe there is a weird twisted logic that they want to put the ads right before the film so that people see the ads more than the trailers, whereas the trailers have gotten these big studio productions, the ads are more focused, and anyway, whole other topic of conversation. I'm getting way too distracted by different thought bubbles here. So, the film itself, A Quiet Place Part 2. I saw the first one twice in the cinema, 2018. Incredible film. I thought it was a masterpiece of tension. Both times was a shit cinema experience. First time I went to see it on my own, there's these girls giggling throughout all the film, you know, these quiet, dramatic moments, you know, like character death, just snickering like, you know, just absolute dog shit audiences. Second time I went to see it with Connie in London, and a woman came in with a tray full of nachos and a big, you know, big slushy drink that she slurped throughout the first 30 minutes of the film. So all those quiet moments of tension, you just have like, I just can't believe people. And I thought, you know, we're going on a Sunday in the afternoon in a pandemic. I mean, some people seem to think that this thing is over. That's all, again, it's a whole other topic conversation, but, you know, I thought, you know, maybe we'll be alright. There was maybe about 20 people in there, I would say, at a guess, maybe 25. Kind of evenly spaced out and everything. And to be fair, we put our names down, phone numbers when we got there, so they're doing the track and trace stuff and all that stuff, and hand sanitizers, masks, and that kind of thing. So, you know, fair play. They're following the you know, what they should be doing, I think. Because there's certain places I've been to. I'm going off topic. There's certain places I've been to in the, like, maybe 3 or 4 times I've been into the city since last March, where some places are really taking it seriously, some places aren't. I went to a McDonald's and they were like, okay, can you just stand there and keep separate and stuff? And there was a woman who was just like, God, they're really taking it seriously in here, aren't they? And I'm like, yes, they should. But some places don't. The cinema did, that was good. So we sat down, and, you know, there's, because one of the characters in the film, the girl, is it Regan or Reagan? I don't know, because they don't really say her name in the film, but the actress Millicent Simmons plays the character, and she's deaf, and so occasionally you get these snapshots of where the audio of the film is representative of her perspective through what she hears, and it's pretty much nothing, you know. I think there might be a few, like, rhythmic hums and things, I'm not entirely sure, but, you know, the sound drops out completely. And you just get like, and I'm just like, can't you keep your fucking hands out of that bag of crisps for like 10-20 seconds? But it got better as the film went on. I think the audience got more drawn into it, but I just, it's in the title. It's always bothered me, but it's bothered me extra in a film called A Quiet Place. It's in the title, expect that. You know, just come in, and it's not even that long. It's an hour and a half. These films are so brisk. Just fucking sit down and stop fidgeting for like an hour and a half. Please. Someone came in 45 minutes late, and there's like an oxygen tank in the film. He's like, what's that? Oxygen tank. What does that do? I'm just like, are you kidding me? Are you actually mental? Coming into a film 45 minutes late and kind of talking amongst yourselves about what's that mean? Oh. Luckily, they kind of got quiet too, probably because they got drawn into the actual great tension and, you know, thrilling storytelling in the movie. So, let's talk about the film. Well, just one last thing. You know, again, people are saying like, it's this amazing thing to go back to the cinema again, and it's this kind of this holy sacred thing. And there's a little reel before the film made by Cineworld of all these like press junket interviews with actors and directors talking about why they love the cinema, you know, and seeing them say how it's just like it's this, you know, it's this special moment, and it was also a bit cringeworthy because they were just laying it on so thick of, well, it's just so special, it's just this moment, and the lights go down, and you know, they kind of romanticize it a little bit. There was actually a segment in there where Chadwick Boseman was talking for a press junket for 21 Bridges, I think the film was, and he looked so gaunt, you know, and you realize why, and it's such a shame, and it kind of gave me a little pang of sadness. But anyway, so people have been talking about that and going back to the cinema, and there have been people who've been going back to the cinema since it reopened last year and stuff, and haven't really, as long as the cinema has been open, people have been going, and that's fine. But, you know, for me, it wasn't this kind of big emotional moment. I was wondering, like, how is it going to feel to sit in a dark room with other people again, watching a film on the big screen. But, you know, it was just nice. It was nice. This is nice. What I love about the cinema is that you can't distract yourself, which I struggle with sometimes when I'm watching stuff at home. Because it's like, oh, well, I'm enjoying this film, but there's this thing I've got to edit, you know, and I'll run upstairs, and I'll finish that film later, and then I just, yeah. But with the cinema, you've kind of paid your money, quote unquote, with the unlimited card, and you got to go in and watch the damn thing. And I like that. And yeah, so it was just nice to see a film on a big screen again. They cropped the film, which really pissed me off for the first few minutes, and then I eventually let go of it. But the deaf character, when she speaks, and sometimes when people speak to her, there'll be subtitles because, you know, they don't expect the audience to actually know sign language. And I thought I can't remember if they did that in the first film, because it felt like the first film had such minimal dialogue. This film had a lot more, I think, going on, but which was a nice contrast. But there's subtitles, and the kind of the very bottom of the subtitles were cut off slightly, so you could read them, but like, you know, as far as like the G going down or the Y going down, you couldn't see those bottom halves of the letters. And I just thought, fucking amateurs, man. Just cropped the film. I'm assuming there's probably like at least that much more image on the frame, because they don't place subtitles at the very bottom of the image. There's usually a little bit of, you know, nicely evened gap. So, you know, we missed some of those minor details around the edges, I'm assuming. But, you know, you get dragged into the story. So I'm going to talk about Quiet Place Part 2 now. If you haven't seen it, check out now. Otherwise, I'll just say I absolutely loved it. I thought it was phenomenal. Only a few minor nitpicks, but otherwise it was just another, again, for me, masterpiece of tension. This kind of just ratcheting up, you know, this suspense and these almost impossible situations, and wondering how the hell these characters are going to get out of it. And obviously with this one, we've now seen what these creatures look like from the first movie, so they lean into that a little bit more here, and we see more of them. But I still like how the way that John Krasinski, who starred in the first film and directed this one, well, he directed both of them, but he's more of the director in this one because he's not really in the film that much. The way that he kept the camera away from them, and so like there's really like the opening sequence where you see the day that it all kicked off. And I remember thinking, because I haven't watched any trailers because I really want to go in blind on this, but I thought to myself, there's no way he's not going to resist putting himself into a flashback sequence. I knew that was going to happen. But it was really well done, I thought, and just that image of like that burning thing coming down through the sky was really fucking, you know, scary, I thought. Not that it scared me, but it was a scary image. You know, it was a very frightening idea, and I liked that. And then when everything starts kicking off and they're in the car, we're focusing on the characters in the car, and we're seeing like the claw come out of a bus, but it's kind of out of focus, you know. So you see these things flying around, but we're not focusing on them in detail and in focus that much. We'll see a shadow of it moving outside of a restaurant or a bar, wherever it was they were hiding. So I really liked how they, you know, at least at the beginning, held off on showing too much, and just, you know, obviously they have to show them, and to show them in more of their you know, in scenes where they show their strength a lot and show how deadly they can be in crowds, which we've never seen before, obviously. So it's expanding, you know, what we've already seen in the first film, which was very, you know, hyper-focused to this one family in this one location. And now we kind of take the story on the road, and without the John Krasinski character, and we see the young girl take on a more active role and kind of stepping up to the plate and trying to, in a way, fill the shoes of her father in taking a proactive approach to, you know, their survival, which is trying to take the information that they learned in the first film and apply that to the greater world. I liked how that story continued in that sense. I don't remember much about the young boy who played her brother in the first film. Same actor as far as I'm aware, but he was fantastic in this film. I thought that because she really stood out. I mean, Emily Blunt is fantastic and was brilliant in the first film, and she's really good here, but Millicent Simmons really stood out to me in the first film. I thought she was wonderful. The young boy really stepped up, I feel like. I need to rewatch the first film again, but I felt like he was super impressive. Like, I really bought, because his character goes through a lot in the film. And at first I thought, because his leg gets kind of injured, and I thought, maybe they just want to. It felt like they were kind of sidelining him, but he gets a lot to do with that, bad leg and what he's left behind with. And we're introduced to a new character played by Cillian Murphy, who's a great actor. He was a good addition to the cast. I did feel like the prologue was a little bit like, oh, hey, see, it's him, because there's a scene where John Krasinski sits down on this bench on the bleachers watching his kids, or one of his kids, his son, play baseball. And all the families are there, and it's kind of a shot of him from the side, and on the other end of the bleacher on the back is Cillian Murphy, and he's in focus and John Krasinski isn't. So it's almost like, see who it is, make sure you remember it's Cillian Murphy. He's come back up later on in the movie. It felt a little bit like they were announcing his arrival as the kind of the male, adult male lead of the film. So I thought it was fantastic. I loved, the briskness of it. These are 90-minute movies. They don't really waste much. They get to what they know, people enjoy about the first one. And what it is just ratcheting up that tension and that suspense and the thrills and the peril, the stakes. It's laid on so thick, but it never feels like it is going overboard in a sense, but it never feels like it's going like mental. It doesn't feel like it's okay, yeah, we got the point. It's just, I think it's so masterfully constructed. I really do. I'm so impressed with both of these films that I almost can't separate them. I think that they're both so on par with each other, and I would give them both 5 stars. There's not really much. I mean, it's the kind of film you go to get that kind of thrilling experience and that kind of stressful, thriller, feeling of watching a film and kind of getting really wrapped up in it. And Connie was getting really tense and stuff, and I could see holding her hand. I wasn't quite that physically moved by it, but I was really into it. And so my minor nitpicks, I would say, and again, this is kind of spoiling things. If you haven't seen the film, you really should check out now. Right at the end, the boy, Emily Blunt, and the baby, they're inside the bunker, and the creature is clawing, trying to get them. It's making all these noises. That was a weird one. Making all these noises and kind of clawing and swiping. And then suddenly he hears that the signal's coming through on the radio. And so he kind of scrambles and he's trying to turn the radio on. And when he's scrambling, all the sound of the creature's gone. So it almost feels like it left the movie, for maybe 4 or 5 seconds, and then he turns it on, we cut back, and it's there thrashing and making noises again. I just felt like with the sound design, just keep it maybe low in the mix, but enough so that you're still actively aware that, it's still there, There's a very tiny, minor technical thing. The second one would be the sequence in which she wakes up the morning after she is saved by Cillian Murphy. Emmett, his character's name was, and, he's kind of... seems like he's going to help her with her mission to go to the island, but she wakes up and he's gone, and he's taken her hearing aid, and she walks out and she's devastated, and so she just crumbles, she collapses, crying. Very great, really, really good performance. This young actress is just fantastic. I think really sold the moment. And then she collapses like that, and then suddenly the boots appear, and he bends down and he's got her hearing aid and hands it to her and says, "Come on, we're going to go out, found a boat." She's standing, looking out in this one direction, falls down, starts crying, puts her hands over her face. From that point of her looking straight forward and him coming up and giving her the hearing aid, I would say that there's no way it's more than 10 seconds, if not much less. And so I can't imagine a scenario in which he was able to kind of, get into that position so quickly without her seeing him at all. It just didn't make any kind of geographical sense. To the point where I think if you're going to do that, then have her collapse, hands over the face, and just hold on it for 20 seconds. Give the film an extra 20 seconds to really, breathe in that moment, and then he turns up. It felt a bit rushed. And then it just felt like, well, why go through the whole rigmarole of her kind of getting upset and collapsing, and then he turns up instantly anyway. I don't know why he took her hearing aid when he left. Maybe so she wouldn't leave. I don't know. So it's just it took me out of the moment a little bit. I was like, oh, well, didn't she see him? You know, because I was into the emotion of it, and then just the kind of, you know, again, the geographical aspect of it. Like, how did she not see that he was walking right towards her, unless he just came around the corner? But then I didn't see. I don't know. Just one of those things that kind of took me out of the moment a little bit. And then finally, the big climax of the film, and I love how these films end. You know, with the first one, it's the shotgun. You know what's going to happen. Bam, finish. We're done here. You know how this story ends. And that's what's great about part two, is that, well, it didn't end. It just keeps going. And we kind of pick up right where the first one left off. And similarly, we end on just, you know, the film builds up and it builds up and it builds up. And we get that release. And you got it. See ya. You know, written and directed by John Krasinski. I enjoy that. It's like, it doesn't, you know, give us 5 minutes of like tying everything up at the end. I enjoyed the way that it did that, and just kind of, and with this film, you know, we follow the brother and the sister, and we kind of show that this like parallel cutting of them both stepping up and facing off against one of these creatures in different locations. For him, he's protecting his mother and his younger sibling. I'm not even sure if the baby's a boy or a girl. And for her, it's stepping into that role of her father and becoming what he was, which is kind of a theme throughout the film. But also she's stepping up for not just, maybe not even knowing that sending the signal out was going to help and save her family, but also would potentially be a savior to many other people, and to help, you know, a wider part of the world who are still alive and trying to survive. And so it's this really great moment where we're kind of cross-cutting. The cross-cutting was done really well throughout the film, really nicely done, really, you know, almost perfectly paced, I thought. Like, it just kind of kept the momentum going of both threads, and in some cases 3 threads, really, really nicely. And again, it's just so compact and brisk, and never felt rushed. It felt just right. You know, do you think of Goldilocks? It wasn't too much, it wasn't too little, it was just right. And then, you know, we're building up to her and her brother, and they're facing off. He's holding up the radio and the gun. He's going to kind of distract this thing with the noise and kind of get inside its head, blow its brains out with the gun. And then she is kind of, you know, pumping that signal through the kind of radio station's kind of speakers, and she's walking towards it, and she pulls out this pole and she stabs it in the head and kills it. And the build-up of that, in terms of the editing and the sound design of the creatures, kind of just like roaring and writhing around in pain, the visual effects, the music building up, so emotional. I was getting moved by it. I was like, fuck, this is a really powerful moment, especially when that kid was like, you know, stay the fuck away from my mother and my, you know, like, I really thought it was a great, awesome, like, rousing moment. And then the girl picks up this stick and she whacks it like that across the alien's head and just, you know, kills it. And I thought, there was no sharp edge to the pole. And I just suddenly was, again, pulled out of the moment, like, well, how did she kill it so easily with just this, like, it just looked like a broom hand, like the end of a broom handle in a way. You know, it was kind of a metallic pole, but there was no sharp edge to it. And then we see it dead on the floor, and she pulls it out, as if it had been stabbed into its head, and it wasn't. You know, and that can be so easily solved by having a shot of her stabbing and not swinging. You know, the stabbing would make sense because it's the point of it going in on the impact. The swinging, you're just getting the side of the pole going into it. That would do nothing. You know, that wouldn't even, you know, kill a human. And these beasts have been made out to seem like almost unstoppable creatures. And if you could just swing, you know, a metal pole at the side of its head and kill it, then, you know, you'd say they might be easier to kill. So that was just I don't know why. It just felt like, how did that slip through the cracks? You know, maybe they thought it wasn't important and people wouldn't really think about that thing, but for me it just jolted me out of it just a little bit because, you know, it didn't feel like, you know, just a slam across the head would do the trick. If she'd picked it up and stabbed it, I almost wouldn't believe that she'd have the strength to fully stab it enough to kill it in one blow, but I would have bought it more, because it at least would have made some sort of permissible sense. So those are some nitpicks that didn't really detract from my like 5-star rating of the film, because, you know, it made me feel all that stuff, but then it would have made me feel even more into it if I hadn't started thinking, oh, well, how did that exactly? You know what I mean? So maybe I should, you know, dock it a 1/2 star, but I don't want to, because I absolutely love the world. And if I could even take a 1/2 star off for it being so, for me, derivative of The Last of Us, I think, both in terms of the production design, the world, you know, the way that it looks, and even the design and sound of the creatures feel very Clicker-esque to me. And then, you know, you get the island and the boat, which for me just screams Last of Us Part 2, and this is called A Quiet Place Part 2, the exact same stylization, so, but I don't mind, I really don't, you know, I'm not saying that they took from it, but, you know, there's only so much you can do that's completely original, and, but for me, I just loved the feel of the film, and the forward momentum of the film, and yeah, it's just great moments. It's really good, and you just have a fantastic cast to really sell it. And we got to see more of the wider world in this, and I'd like to see more. I'd be intrigued to see where they go with the third one. I think they're doing a third movie that isn't part 3, but it's set in the world by another director or something like that. Anyway, what did I fucking say? I thought I could do this in 10 minutes. Apparently not. So that was my thoughts on A Quiet Place Part 2. Absolutely loved it. Fantastic. Just and you know, the scenes with the baby, really tough to watch, you know, and it was tough in the first film. It was just, I couldn't believe, like, they're even putting a baby in peril. And in this film, I mean, they don't get, like, too threatening with it, but there is this, not intent, there's this implication of how this baby might be harmed. Not even harmed, but how there's just what am I tiptoeing around it for? I've already spoiled things. Just the fact that the boy and the baby were locked inside that bunker with no air, and the oxygen's running out, and the baby's crying, like, fucking hell, that hits you. That hits you, I don't care who you are. It was kind of hard to watch that stuff. But, you know, they had the baby in the first film, they couldn't just dispense of it. And I would have, you know, if they had killed the baby, I mean, I would just have completely rejected the film. I think that would have been, you know, no way they would do that anyway. But just putting it in that kind of danger was like, you know, that was like, no, you don't go there, don't go there. Well, not don't go there because it was effective, but don't go to a point where you're actually going to kill a baby off, because that's just way too much. But, you know, even though my point is, even though I knew they would never do it, I still bought into the whole, you know, you just get, even, it's like when you watch a film that's a favourite film of yours, if it's a thriller or something, Aliens or Alien, you know, when that countdown goes off at the end, and, you know, the ship's going to blow up, the planet's going to blow up, but you still get kind of a little bit, like, you know, tense about it. You know, you get a little bit stressed out, even though you've seen the film 100 times before, you know she gets off fine and all of this. But that's when a thriller is really well constructed, especially when you've already seen it before and it still makes you feel the same way. And I have no doubt that A Quiet Place is going to hold up. Both films, in fact. And I haven't gone back to the first one since it came out, and I would love to, down the line, watch both these films again, maybe even back to back, and get maybe like a noise cancelling headset to really, really kind of dig into that feeling of the film and the sound and everything. Because as nice as it was to see a new film out in the cinema, and having that experience again, people rustling and, you know, fiddling around, I don't know, it just bugs me. Anyway, so I'll leave it there. Thank you for watching. Hope you enjoyed. And I'll see you next time, I guess. Yeah, I don't know. It's weird filming a video that's not in my normal angle, because I don't feel comfortable almost. It's weird. Anyway, whatever. Thank you for watching. See you next time.
It's alright by me. Apart from the fact he throws cans of Carlin into a tree. Yeah, he's really cool. Yeah, he's really cool. But he's not quite as cool as you, 'cause